Story 1. My boyfriend keeps getting invited on dates by our mutual female friend. I, 23, female, have been together with my boyfriend, 25, for 4 years now. Although we have different interests and hobbies, we also have mutual ones and make a lot of great memories together. I always envisioned him to be the one to spend the rest of my life with. I am currently still a student. My BF has been working as a technician for a few years now. We both live with our parents. 1.5 years ago, we were introduced to a friend's friend, let's name her Emily, 24, female. Emily is the girlfriend of one of my boyfriend's closest friends. Yet, she keeps talking about how my boyfriend is the only one she can talk with about her relationship problems. She regularly invites him to do stuff with her. Alone. When we are in group, she is often teasing him and giggling. She tickles my boyfriend and puts her arms around him. She's not doing this with her own BF. When she's greeting my boyfriend or saying goodbye, she gives him very long and intensive hugs. I have told my boyfriend I'm not comfortable with all of those things and have asked him to set a few boundaries concerning Emily. My boyfriend reacted to this very angrily and said this is just the way he treats all of his friends, regarding their gender. He doesn't understand my point of view and told me I was being a brat. Recently, Emily and her BF broke up. I discovered she asked my boyfriend to go and have a drink in town, the two of them alone, when I was at home studying. After the drinks, they went to his home and played video games together. Afterwards, she slept on the guest sofa. I confronted my BF and told him I didn't like this. He said he won't set boundaries regarding Emily because he doesn't want to upset her. I don't want to forbid him from seeing her, I just don't like the physical contact and the two of them doing thing alone. At the end of the conversation, he said Emily had asked him to go on a road trip with her this summer for 3 weeks. The two of them together. I'm very angry with Emily as she clearly knows my BF and I are in a relationship together and yet keeps teasing him. Am I just being jealous? Update, thank you all. I guess I just needed to hear I deserve to be respected. He gaslit me. I promise I will post another update in a few weeks' time. He also told me he won't be joining Emily on the road trip. Update 1. Tomorrow I'll see him. I'm going to break up with him. He's just too immature and doesn't respect my feelings. Now that I've decided to break up, I feel sad but also relieved. Anyone got any tips? This would be my first breakup ever. Update 2. We broke up. He still doesn't understand what he did wrong. For him, there is no difference in how he treats Emily or his other friends, regarding their gender. It doesn't take away that he hurt me and I don't trust him anymore. I blocked Emily. Story 2, accuse me of rape. Okay, enjoy your time in jail. So I have been with my ex, G, not real name, for 4 years and between us everything was fine. We were in love for most of our time and we rarely argued because of similar interests and hobbies. Our family went along well and we were about to start living together. I was searching for a house big enough for us and why not with more rooms for our future kids. At that time we were already living together at one of my parents' houses but it was small and made only for one. In that house I had many security cameras because of a past trauma with thieves inside my family house when I was a kid so I wanted to be sure that my house was protected enough. Long story short I found out my ex, not real name for obvious reasons, was cheating on me and I found it out through the security cameras. I broke up with her immediately and the idea of forgiving her never crossed my mind for a second. To my POV cheaters have zero credibility and when they promise to change they are lying and so I never forgave her and not even listened to her reasons and excuses but just blocked her and ghosted her. She spent months trying to reach me out, contacting me with fake numbers, making their friends writing me texts and calls to forgive her but I always blocked the numbers and ignored her. After 3 months like this everything finally stopped and I thought that it was the end of it but for God's sake not at all. At that time I was working as a lawyer and things were going pretty well for me and I was making myself a name with big clients when a day the police arrived in my office and arrested me. I and my colleagues were in shock because to the police officers I was accused of sexual abuse and stalking on my ex. There I realized that she was a crazy lying bitch. Useless to say I lost my work and my credibility and I had to go to the trial and defend myself from this false accusations. Fortunately it went out after a month that it was all a lie and I brought many proofs, calls and texts, but actually she was the one stalking me and harassing me for breaking up with her because she cheated on me. She was sentenced to give me a ridiculous compensation, just a few $1,000s, and some hours of social services. I mean, when I heard the sentence I thought it some kind of joke, and in fact I laughed at it, but it was all fucking true. So I started another legal war against her for false rape accusations with the aggravations of premeditation and malicious compliance. I hope that malicious compliance are the right words. Just to add one more thing, my parents were always at my side and never believed her, while her parents tried to defend her always, even when she was first sentenced for the ridiculous compensation and the hours of social services. The case took 2 years to be solved when finally she was sentenced to 8 years in jail, no good behavior clause, and this time a more appropriate compensation, around $200K. But you know I'm not happy about this, because for how much I wanted my revenge, no legal study wanted to hire me because of this. My case was pretty famous in my country, so I was obliged to change country. And here I'm finally telling someone this awful story of my life. Justice was served, but not at all, because I still remember those days where I practically sent my CV to every legal studio of my country, but no one wanted me because of my reputation, and for how much I'm happy about my ex being in jail, my reputation would never be clean again, and I will forever suffer for this. Story 3. My mom got cheated on with a family member, and now I have to keep the secret and act as if nothing happened. Part 1. As the title says, my mother, 39, was cheated on a few years ago, and it was with none other than a family member very close to us. So for context, my mother and dad decided to separate their ways when I was very young, and my mother moved with his new husband, my stepfather, far from where we lived, and because of some circumstances, me and my siblings lived with our grandparents since she could not take us, and my father was too busy having fun with women to take responsibility for us. But don't get me wrong, when my mother could, she would visit us and be present financially, as my family is not a wealthy one. She had to work really hard to provide for my siblings and I. My father, though, he just did not care and only provided because my grandparents obligated him to, but he would do very little for us. The thing is, I had this family member of mine, let's call her Mary, 20, who I was very close with, much more than my own sister. She was basically my ride and die. To me she was a sister, since our family circumstances were very similar. We both lived with our grandparents, and our father and mother were not with us since young. Since we would often play and do things together since an early age, it was no surprise that we grew close, too much you could say. It was to the point where we felt no one could understand us as we did. We confided our most terrible and great secrets to each other. We would lie about things we did for the sake of protecting each other, and we would hate when someone yelled at one of us, even if it was other family members. You could say it was a very tight relationship, to the point where it became a dependent relationship. As we grew, the relationship did not change but only grew closer. Everyone made fun of us and said if we were not family and one of us was a boy, we would be married to each other. When we fought, everyone would know, as there was no time where we would not be hugging, holding hands, playing, talking, or being yelled at together. My sister even grew jealous of my closeness with her, but I was happy. It was not until I had to move with my mother that things took a turn. My grandmother died and things got worse. Since she was like the sole ruler of my dad's side of the family, we lost our ways and became separated. This was the time I grew closer to my sister, since we both thought of our grandparents as our parents. It was a tough time, so we faced it together. She and I spend more time with each other than ever before. Mary did not, since she is from my mom's side of the family, and my grandparents who raised me were my dad's side of the family. But as I said before, my mother moved and could not take us with her due to being in another country. But when my grandma died, she was finally done with our papers and could bring us with her. My sister decided to stay. She could not bring herself to leave family behind. My brother also stayed, and I left. This was because I missed my mother too much and wanted to feel what it was like having a mother. I considered my grandma and her my two moms, with me, and wanted to finally be able to help my family, and knew I would not be able to do it in my economic situation, so I left to be with my mother and her husband. Things were great at first, but we fought a lot soon after, as she did not like some things I did, and the same was with me. We had very similar personalities when it came to being mad, which did not help since we thought the other was wrong and we were absolutely right. My relationship with my mother passed from being a loving and stable one, to a distant and somewhat difficult mother-daughter relationship. We fought for every little thing, which made me grow closer with my stepfather, and he was a great listener. So since he was the only one I had to talk to, as it was only the three of us, he became my Mary and sister, when it came to confide and talk only, in here. Part 2. So like I said, my stepfather and I grew close to each other. Yes, this is crucial for the main topic, and I began to see him as a father/friend figure in which I could rely on, to the point where I would defend him and love him like a family. To me that step disappeared from my relationship with him, and he was just him. Let's call him Eddie. So while my mom and I became distant, Eddie and I were inseparable, and when I would visit my family, with my mom and him, I would brag on how much I had someone so wonderful in my life. I guess this is where the downfall began. Mary also had a stepfather, and while they were in good terms, it was nowhere near of how much Eddie and I were close. I know I said our family situation were similar, but there was one difference. My mother did love my siblings and I and was sad to leave us behind, while Mary's mother just could not care to be a mother and be there for Mary. This is something I suspect made her start to become somewhat jealous of me, which is something I could not believe at first, as financially speaking, she had a far more better life than me, and since she had health problems since little, was very loved by my mom's side of the family, who would not even dare to say anything bad to her. To clarify, she is someone who does extremely well at school, has a very lovable personality and is pretty. However, she would not be so confident of herself and would often be depressed because of her relationship with her parents, and the fact that her health made her step back from doing kid stuff. But back to our teen years, Mary became a very beautiful and smart woman. It was so easy to talk to her, everyone loved to be around her. My mother was not the exception. She would take Mary, me and my siblings, everywhere because just as I considered Mary my sister, I knew somehow my mother considered Mary her daughter. So now back to the main topic. After a few years of living with my mother and stepfather, there were marriage problems with them and mother-daughter problems with me and her, and somehow I transformed from being a social butterfly to an introvert with isolated and anxiety problems. I always felt like I did not belong anywhere, I was alone, and felt just empty. I strangely missed my life back to where I lived with my grandparents. You'll soon know why I said strangely, and would often feel uncomfortable around my mother, too. The point where I felt she did not even wanted me there anymore and always put others above me, even though I tried to do everything to make her proud of me. So soon I developed this thing where there would be a period of time where I would do nothing but cry, hate myself, isolate myself from others, and find it hard to feel happy in general. This was because since little I would notice my grandparents favoring my older siblings, and even forgetting about me, my mother leading me and siblings to live with her husband. A young kid will not understand it and just feel that the mother preferred husband before her kids, and my mother's side of the family having Mary as the golden and loving child, and since I did not do well on school, I would often be made fun of my intelligence by my own family, and always be compared to with others. About how pathetic I am and how great my sister and cousins are and how they thought I would be the one to get pregnant as a teen and be the embarrassment of the family. I confided this to Mary once we reunited when I went to visit my hometown and even told her I would not even know what to do if it weren't for Eddie who would listen to my problems. Not all, I could not bring myself to say everything that was on my mind, and was always there for me. So that time, it was supposed to be only my mother and I who would travel to our hometown, me first then her, but at last moment my stepfather also came and spent time with my family, which made me very happy as I wanted him to be with me there, and since we were all adults now, over 18, this is the age you are considered an adult in my hometown. We also drank together with all my family. It was great and everyone seemed to be getting a lot well, but something changed in that trip. Mary and Eddie became closer, nothing like before where they would only greet each other. They would start conversations and laugh together, which was not something to be cautious of, as they would do it when my mom and I were there, and they would often talk when all of us were involved in the conversation. But like I said, I also had my dad's side of the family to visit, so I would have to leave Mary, who mostly only came to be there when I was there to visit my mother's mom and others, and go with my sister to visit my grandpa and dad. Our relationship got better as my siblings and I grew, but he/dad felt more like a friend than a parent figure. One day, when my sister and I went back to my grandma's house, my mom's mom, Mary and Eddie were talking about how much fun they had talking to each other last night since they stayed up all night sharing stories and opinions, and like I said, this was not something I was wary of as I knew how Eddie was such a great listener and a funny person, and how Mary loved to make more friends. Even my mother was happy about them growing closer since she adored both of them, but things took a change when they started to be on their own world and sometimes even ignore us and just talk about what they found interesting. I would sometimes feel bad as I'm the jealous type and did not like feeling like Mary and Eddie would spend time without me, but also felt happy that they were getting along. It was very confusing. And everything seemed somewhat well until we left to go back to where we lived and I started to see bad things about Eddie that my father found out. Story 4. How do I repair my relationship with my boyfriend and his family after what I suggested to his sister? So I've been in a relationship with my boyfriend, who we'll call G, for about 2 years. He has 3 younger siblings. M, male, 23, A, male, 21, and T, female, 19. All of them are still in college and still live at home with their mom, 55, and dad, 55, while my boyfriend and I rent an apartment. This summer they will be celebrating their 30th wedding anniversary in France where they had their wedding. They plan on getting first-class tickets, a high-end hotel, etc. One night, G and I were supposed to have dinner with his family. While we were at their house, T mentioned how excited she was for this summer and all the things they plan to do in France. As this is an anniversary trip for her parents, I suggested to T she could do her parents a solid and maybe stay back home and out of their hair to give her parents time away from their kids this summer. Or she could maybe pay her own way so her parents could save money. T asked me why she'd give up a trip to France. And I told her it would be a nice gesture for her parents' anniversary. I kept trying to tell her how nice it would be and how her parents would probably thank her for giving them space. At some point M interrupted us and told me to stop meddling in family affairs, that I was overstepping, and to either apologize for pressuring T or to leave the house. I told him I didn't mean to make anyone upset. But when their dad came into the room and asked them what was wrong, they told him everything. He then asked me to leave his house and said I probably shouldn't come back anytime soon because I was overstepping, and he found it rude that I was making up a problem and pressuring T to solve it. Me and G went back to our apartment and we haven't been speaking. Where do I go from here? Edit for more info. Info, the others are invited, but they're older so I assume they can just go do their own thing. Info, I'm not obsessed with their financial situation. I just think it's important that T starts making money on her own so she can value it more. She's used to getting her hair, nails, and sometimes makeup done and paid for. Not to mention how much products she buys for her hair and sanitary products. It'll hit her hard how much this stuff costs when she's older, so why not start learning that now? Update. Last night me and my G had a long and serious talk about my comments at the dinner, along with some of my past comments. He told me while in my family refusing a free trip when you are invited may be seen as noble, in his family, refusing a free trip is seen as stupid. In my family if someone offers to pay for you you should always decline no matter what. My parents made me work all throughout high school and always told me I'd have to get a scholarship to help pay for college because they weren't going to do it. It is also a courtesy in my family to not expect help with finances no matter how tough it may get, to only eat one serving at dinner gatherings, to always pay your own way, and we often voice our opinions no matter what they are. He then went into discussing the trip to France. His mother has extended family who live there, so this will not be the first or last time they all go. It will be the first time they explore the area so even if T wasn't old enough to go off on her own or didn't know her way around or the language, she'd be just fine. And if his mom and dad wanted alone time she'd be just fine on her own even if they didn't have family there. When me and G first started dating and we were talking about our family history, he told me about how his maternal great-great-grandparents moved to America from France. I was under the impression that everyone from his mother's extended family moved, not just the great-great-parents and their children. Apparently, his mother thought my behavior was because I didn't feel welcome by them and the dinner was to invite me on the France trip as a sort of peace offering. However, after his father caught me trying to sway T, he had enough and decided he couldn't take it anymore no matter what his wife says. He will not tolerate me being around the rest of the family or in their home any longer. This came as a shock to the family as his dad doesn't speak much and is usually calm and composed. My boyfriend also showed me his photos from his parents' wedding. It looked like one of the most fairy tale-like weddings I'd ever seen. It was held at Chateau Chalin and he explained how they plan on renting the space again and flying all of their extended out to celebrate with them because they want to celebrate with everybody, and will take time for themselves later on in the summer. I also teared up listening to how his parents met. After graduating high school, his mother spent the summer in France with her family while his dad was visiting along with his older brother. His dad had struggled with cancer nearly his entire life up to that point and it was supposed to be his dad's last trip before he let himself go because he was tired of all of it. One morning while eating alone at a cafe, he recognized her as the most beautiful girl he's ever seen who spent her time helping out her family with their restaurant, running it like it was the Navy, someone who wasn't afraid to call customers out when they were being unreasonable or just downright rude, and someone who knew exactly what she wanted and how to get it. The complete opposite of him. They spent the day together, which inspired his father to continue his cancer treatment, accomplish his goals, and start taking life more seriously so he could be by her side for as long as she'd have him. His parents always told him and his siblings the only thing in life they value more than each other are their children, and they want to make sure if life ever gets hard for them they have something to fall back on. He told me he'd be moving back in with his parents until he can find a new apartment. He also revoked my invitation to their family Christmas trip to Aspen, which we were supposed to be leaving for tonight. I feel like I'm in another man video right now, what the fuck? On another note, my friend saw my initial post and gave me an intervention. I will be attending therapy for the foreseeable future. May update when I unpack what's wrong with me. Edit for info. Info, people seem to be confused. When I say his father recognized his mother in France, I mean that literally, as they are from the same hometown. Info, some people also think I'm saying love cured his father's cancer. I was told that it was what made him continue treatment. That's all I was told. Info, I've also gotten comments about the years of the Chateau Chalin becoming a wedding venue and the wedding not making sense. Unless I'm misremembering something, I remember him saying they were married there. Maybe I'm mixing up the locations when he was talking about the wedding venue and the wedding anniversary venue. Story 5, I just found out that I'm an affair baby. My parents have been married for 14 years and I have 3 siblings. I'm 17 and the second youngest. My siblings are all biologically my dad's. I found out through my grandma on my dad's side of an accident yesterday, and my grandpa, dad's dad, told me the full story but made me promise not to tell anyone for my dad and I's happiness, but I'm so upset I don't know what to do. Yesterday got into a petty argument with my grandma about laundry at her house, and she mumbled under her breath how she knew I should have been aborted because I'm not even my dad's kid. I froze and acted like I didn't hear her and later cried in my room. My grandpa found me sobbing that night and asked me what happened. I told him what my grandma said and he told me the truth. My mom cheated on my dad when he was on a work trip with his cousin who's also married, and they had me. My dad's cousin doesn't know that he's my dad. My mom just passed me along. I look like all my other siblings, so nothing was ever questioned. My grandparents never said anything because my dad has been cheated on in the past, and apparently it really messed him up, and he was an alcoholic and did drugs for a while, so they didn't want him to go down that path again. He and my mom are also really in love, or as in love as they can be. I know my dad would die for my mom and she seems like she would too, but I just can't see her as a good person anymore. I'm so angry with her, but I still love her so much. She's my mom. I never would have known if my grandma didn't say that. I'm so sad and scared. My dad is my favorite person. I'm my dad's only girl and he loves me so much too. I've always been a daddy's girl and he's been my go-to person for everything. I've seen so many stories of dads just upping and leaving because they find out that their kid isn't biologically theirs. I'm so scared my dad is suddenly not going to love me or be my dad anymore because of what my mom did. My grandpa told me not to say anything so my dad doesn't get hurt and that I can still be happy, but I'm not happy. My dad is also paying for my schooling, and if he finds out, is he suddenly not going to help me anymore because he technically doesn't have to? I'm the only one who's going to college and he's so proud of it. He brags all the time about how I'm going to be a surgeon someday and save lives. Am I going to get kicked out? My parents would 100% get divorced. Where would I go? No one else in my family besides my grandparents know, and obviously the makers of this mess. I don't know what to do. The right thing is to tell him, but I just can't. I want to, but he's not going to be my dad anymore and my family is going to fall apart. I don't know what to do. I feel like dying. What am I supposed to do? Story 6, my wife lied to me for weeks about where she was going after work. I have been with my wife for 7 years. We got married on our 7-year anniversary, which was about 2 months ago. My wife works at a restaurant. She has worked there for about 6 months. Her shift would normally finish around 11 p.m. or so, and she would go for drinks etc. with friends and come home between 3 to 6 a.m. This was fine with me as I would go play poker and was happy she had a more active social life. I got the sense she was lying to me though, so I started asking her where she was going and writing it down. I did this for weeks and then eventually compared that with her Google Maps timeline. She was saying she was going to various places, but in reality she was going to this one house, of her manager, apparently a share house with his partner and another coworker. I confronted her saying I felt she was lying, but she denied it. I said I know she was lying and to tell me the truth. She still denied it. I said, this is the time to tell me the truth, but she continued to deny it. I then showed her my evidence and she then said she wasn't cheating but was lying because she was smoking weed every day and would talk down about me smoking too much. When I called that bullshit, she said she had started to develop feelings for her manager, which is why she felt guilty and lied so profusely. I left our apartment and basically told her we are getting a divorce and blocked her to stop her from calling me. This was about 2 weeks ago. We have been in contact via email and I finally went to see her last night as she wanted to talk about it. I, perhaps stupidly, believe she wasn't cheating, because her manager lives with his partner and another colleague and logistically it would be difficult to actually cheat. But she was at least emotionally cheating, and of course there was the endless lying. I didn't know she could lie like that to me. I guess I don't know why I'm writing this, if I want advice or if I just wanted to vent. In the past I've tried to break up but she would get so upset and I couldn't go through with it because I couldn't hurt her that much. I guess I'm a coward. Part of me wants to just forget it all happened and tell her if she ever lies to me again it's over. Part of me thinks I'm just taking the easy way out and not being able to do the hard thing. I know I've been pretty inattentive in the relationship and I pushed her towards this but I just can't get past the lie. Sorry for the incoherent mess, it's kinda reflective of my mental state at the moment. Story 7. My wife is hiding her recent hospital visit from me, and I don't know why. A friend of mine suggested that this site could help me gain some insight and tips on how to handle this situation, so I am willing to give you guys a shot. As the title says, my wife is refusing to show me proof of her last visit to the hospital. This is strange as she and I have always been transparent about our medical visits since we started dating. For context, I first met my now wife when I was 24 at the local gym. For 8 years, we have been a dynamic duo and very open and honest with each other. She is the love of my life, and I could not imagine a day without her. This recent visit was not for some physical checkup, but to see her fertility rates. We have discussed having kids around the 4th year of our relationship, so 2 years after getting married. The talks were really only about making sure we were financially ready before bringing anyone into the world, which we both agreed on being a few years away. After moving twice for work, we are now both well into our careers and earning a good salary with a home purchase in mind at the moment. However, like many you have seen in the news, now may not be the time to buy with a possible market crash. Our friend group have been announcing their pregnancies as of late, and I guess my wife was getting excited about the idea of a kid. After discussing it last year, we decided that it was time to try and start a family. Month after month, no positive pregnancy result. Everything has been standard, and no period has been missed from her. I was nervous about the idea that I was just stuck with shooting blanks, so my wife and I scheduled, attended, and participated in the process of checking my sperm count. Suffice to say, I am shooting nothing but strong swimmers ready to do their job. While I felt immediate relief about these results, I noticed my wife grew anxious about her fertility. This is what has been the issue of our relationship, which is new as we have always been open, honest, and non-argumentative with one another. This led to a minor pause in our trying attempts as she became uncomfortable with the thought that it was due to her. I tried to comfort her as best as I could by reassuring that I would love her just as much on our wedding day as I would with hearing the results. She is my one and only, and no potential kid would change that. After a few months, she said that she was going to meet up with a fertility doc to check her out. The appointment was when I was out of the country for work, which is fine as it is just them getting samples for testing for my understanding. About a month after the appointment, I come home to my wife crying. She handed over the results which declared her to be infertile. I would be lying if I said I was not crushed on this news, but I made sure to make my wife's health the top priority. Having her family health history or involvement would have been great, but her parents passed away near the end of high school and were cut off from their family due to the incident, for my wife. This means that, outside of therapy, I have been her reliable shoulder. It has been tough on me to hear how sad this has made her, but I have continued to do my best to support here. I guess this is the part where things go wonky. During a meeting with our friend group, one of the wives came up to me to ask about how she is holding up. At this point, they knew about my wife's fertility and this friend of ours was also given the non-fertile outcome. However, through luck, power, or a mix of both, she had become pregnant. She has been a lifeline for my wife and I through this struggle, so I was open with her about it. I even sent her the photo my wife gave me. The next day, I get a phone call from around noon. She broke the news to me that the results were from Google Images, and provided the link to it. Sure enough, there it is. I felt such a mix of emotions when seeing this. When I sent the link of the image my wife showed to me, she said that it doesn't matter as she had met with the doctor about this in person. Well, if that is the case, then the hospital could be in legal trouble from us, therefore, I need the proof that she went to these visits, and now I am being stonewalled at seeing these appointment confirmations. While I may have only had 2 relationships prior to meeting my wife, none were as perfect than it has been with my beautiful wife. What has me stressed out is the fact that I caught her lie about going to a doctor to check on her fertility. This is the only lie, outside of the small white lies about not eating the last bit of my homemade jerky, she has made to me that I caught. What do I do? Update 1. Hey guys. Sorry for not responding last night. I didn't think I would get more than the few responses I had gotten, so I was shocked to see the outflow of advice and kind messages. I'm new to this site, so I appreciate the genuineness of the responses given to me. I have read through all of the comments here and I think the theme here is kind of like this. My wife doesn't want to have kids. My wife may be taking birth control. I need to let off the gas/pressure and be more comforting for my wife to open up. Therapy. This is great advice, and I am making sure to take it. Last night was awkward again with my wife, but I made sure to be silent on the issue. I am going to be having a bro weekend with the boys, so it will give me time away from this problem. I don't know how I will be able to do it, but I just want to make sure my wife knows that I love her no matter what. If she wants to be kid-free, then I'll be kid-free right beside her. As long as we do it as a team together, I am more than okay with it. It is just the hiding that has gotten to me. One thing I will also make sure to do is see if I can look up insurance records. Maybe it makes me a bad adult for never really looking into this, but I have just been so caught up on the fake results and lie that I guess it didn't cross my mind. For now, I'm going to take your words of advice into consideration and slowly broach this subject. If things do not improve here in the next few weeks, then I'll make sure to reach out to you guys again. Update 2. After a friend informed me that the picture my wife provided was from Google, I decided to just confront her. When I got home from work, I just told her that I knew the image was from the internet, and that she had likely been lying about her appointments as well. Therefore, I told her to just spill it out, as I at least deserved some honesty after we had spent 8 years together. So she did, and I wish she never had. Turns out my life had been a lie and so was everything that we built. Her dead family? Nope. They were alive and well. Her hometown? Nope. Different city entirely. Her infertility? Surprisingly, true because of genetics. My wife hid that she was transgender from me the entire time I knew her. When we first met, she was 25 years old and 7 years into her transition. She had undergone basically everything that she needed to. Is this why she said her family was dead? Kind of. Turns out that all of this was paid for by a sugar daddy that she met freshman year of college, and her family did not approve of that type of relationship and wanted it to end. So she cut them off, fixed herself up a new look and backstory, and would break it off with him a few years before we met. I only know this because I was able to reach out to her sister, even though she told me she was an only child like me, and she was able to fill in the missing pieces that were still left out. I lost my folks when I was 21, and did not have a relationship with my extended family. That's why we decided to elope and have a nice little reception with friends is all. This was painful to hear, and the family bit was an absolute gut punch to me. How did I not know if I had been in a relationship with 2 other women before? I never did it with them. I wanted to wait till marriage, so nothing was off and she would explain things away. A bit dry. Happens to a lot of girls and so it was no biggie. The sticks in the drawer. All women need a little buddy when the time calls, especially when I would be out of the country for work I suppose. What about the time of the month? She would have me buy pads and tampons, act a bit moody, make a few requests for ice cream, and then donate some of the stuff I bought to ladies that actually needed them. How about her looks? She is 5 feet 3 inches on a good day, while I am 6 foot on a bad one. The boys would always say I was lucky that a California 8 decided to settle with a country boy 4 like me. I was overwhelmed by everything she said. It was too much, and I just hopped into my truck and kept driving west. Told the folks that knew me that we broke up and I was leaving town. We only eloped, so there was nothing outside of rent that was tied to my name. I sent her a text saying that we were done, keep or sell my things, and that I wish her the best in life and we never see each other again. So that's that. Story 8, a girl my ex and I worked with doesn't know he is infatuated with her, and that it tore our marriage apart. There is a talented, nice, beautiful, and awesome colleague my soon-to-be ex-husband and I used to work with at a white-collar firm who doesn't know that she was a huge part of why my relationship crumbled. Let me start off by saying I only wish her the best, because she had no active part in the relationship failing. She's married, and I tore my ex a new one and begged him not to confess his feelings to her so he wouldn't ruin her career and her marriage while my whole life started falling apart. I simply don't think it's fair for a person of her caliber to have to leave a really nice job that treats people well because of some drama she never contributed to. She's a bystander, and was nothing but friendly and helpful to me at work and when we all hung out. I've been no contact with my husband since we separated. We're still waiting on the divorce to be finalized because our state is dragging it out. Happy holidays to me, and I did try to email her and ask her and her husband out to dinner to try to explain the depths of the infatuation my ex has for her, and why it's inappropriate for him to stay at the firm because he is in a position of power over her at times. Instead, she turned around and told my ex that I had sent her a letter, and he sent me a very boring response telling me to cease and desist trying to contact her. Whatever, buddy. The truth is that we were always in an open relationship, and our roles were simple. We always love each other the most, and you don't date coworkers. When my ex told me he was crushing on her, I immediately reminded him she was off the table, and encouraged him to try to be friends with both her and her husband instead and look elsewhere to snuff the crush flame out. This led to my ex keeping journals, going to individual and couples counseling with me, and writing me letters about how he knew he was hurting me because of his feelings for her, for several years after confessing his crush. But it's the journals that are so insanely gross. We worked in a field where we're encouraged to take a lot of notes. My ex is extremely introspective, so it made sense for him to have that outlet, and, disgustingly, write in things about her that were full of antiquated views about women in the workplace. How she styled her hair that day, the outfit she wore, how she excelled in meetings on the days she would wear heels versus flats, etc. All about her looks, instead of how well she did her actual job. I spiraled, and I know that exacerbated things in my relationship with my ex. I left that job working with my then husband under the guise of needing to take care of a loved one in my family. I told the firm I wanted to resume my job there once the family member was better, all while hoping that my ex would stop working extra hours just to be around her and be present with me and my sick family member instead. That never happened. He asked for a divorce instead. Here's some important info/context. How did I know about the journals? He admitted to them in therapy. I also have a letter from him apologizing for overstepping on both my birthday and our wedding anniversary by bringing up his feelings about her. Did I contact HR? Yes, but without her backing me up, the firm was uninterested in hearing me out because I had already left. Along with the fact that my ex rakes in a ton of cash for them, and because he technically never made any sexual advances, there wasn't much HR could do except provide emotional support. Thank you to the HR person who did this for me, you were wonderful. Did they have much contact outside of work? No, as far as I could tell. He offered me his phone to comb through messages, and her texts were very few and far between and only about work-related things or logistics for outside events we all attended together. There were also no recently deleted apps or weird battery usage issues. It's still possible they were sneaking around, but it's highly unlikely. Even if they were, what does it matter now? No kudos to him for telling his parents that he was crushing on her and that it was harmless. Let's be real. Keeping journals for years about how your coworker styles her hair and giving her a special nickname when you write her love notes in your journals isn't just a crush, that's straight up emotional cheating. Who the fuck emotionally cheats in an open relationship? Apparently my ex. So cheers to you, darling ex-coworker. I'm glad your marriage seems to still be intact, that mine has failed, truly, because I'm in a better job and a better place both mentally and physically now, and that you're standing in front of my ex in the firm's current personnel photo on the website. I'm happy about that, because you look cute in your heels, and he looks like a goon. Story 9, wife tracks my location on iPhone. I don't like it. My wife, 30, tracks my location on iPhone Find My. I, 31, feel smothered and not free. We have 2 young kids and she stays at home while I work. We have no trust issues and a very nice wonderful relationship. She is not worried about me cheating. The last year or so she has been bugging me to share my location on my phone so she knows where I am and when I'm coming home from work etc. I come home at random times, usually work at the office late. I told her I didn't really want to do that because after years of being together, I feel a little smothered, like I don't have free will. All I do is go to the gym before she wakes up, then go to work, then come home and if I ever deviate from that routine she asks me, what were you doing at Walmart? Seems lame for it to bother me, right? Yesterday, I got off work a little early and headed over to a jewelry store for Christmas shopping for her. It is next to a guitar center. I am a guitar player whom loves to check out new guitars. I would never buy something expensive without talking about it with her. I came home to, why did I spend an hour in Guitar Center instead of spending more time with her and the kids? It just makes me want to stop sharing my location but then it feels shady. What do you guys think? Am I being silly? I just don't feel free as a person. She is in the bank, the emails, she can look at my phone whenever she asks, the Amazons and steamings in my journal. None of this feels mischievous or untrusting, it's like she just loves me and wants to know everything I am up to and doesn't see it as anything else. Update. I spoke with her about it on a date, We dropped off the kids with grandma. I gave her the jewelry I bought her while she thought I was hiding out at Guitar Center and told her how I felt about the situation, that I don't feel free or when she stalks me. She agreed it wasn't cool but told me she stalks me because she is waiting at home for me and feels trapped with both the young kids. As most of you stated, she was actually happy I was chilling at the guitar store on a Friday after work but was also really overwhelmed at home. I told her that the combination of her reading my journal and making me feel I could not buy her a surprise in peace made me feel trapped as well. We are turning off location tracking for now, but I have promised to text her at the normal time I should leave work to let her know if I will stay late and to text her on the way home. I like that. She told me as for my location and journal she is too curious and needs them out of her vision. I will not leave my journal lying around the house in plain sight and expect her not to be curious. I agree with that. It may be hard for me not to look too. Thanks for all the advice. I hope it helps some other here too. Some things to take away. Gals want to know where you are. It's not uncommon to share locations in relationships. More guys than you think are okay with that. More guys than you think are bothered by that. Guys, I promise she is an amazing wife. I just need to communicate and she needs. Story 10. My girlfriend hits me all the time and now I started hitting back and I feel disgusted with myself. My girlfriend hits me whenever she is angry. We have been dating for around 6 years and she started hitting me around the 3rd year. The very first instance when she hit me was on the day before my 23rd birthday. We were in a rough patch for some time, and there was this instance where she brought up some dude and compared me with him. In the heat of the moment I said go fuck him. There she slapped me hard 4 to 5 times then and there and stupid me thought I deserved it and I apologized for saying that. She said she will never do it again, but I guess I was wrong. Then there were several instances where for the smallest things she would start escalating the issue. She used to punch me, slap me, spit food in my face. But I stayed with her because it's my fault for me emotionally unavailable. I kinda became a stone. But recently when she smacked me in my balls during a fight and while I was writhing in pain she was laughing. So I had enough and smacked her back. She stared crying and I immediately felt sorry and we had a conversation and it was fine. Alright, now just 15 minutes ago this fight happened. She and her friend went shopping and I said I will be there by 7:30, but I was watching a movie and it got a bit late and I would only able to be there at 8:15. She got upset and told me not come. And she came home around 9. She didn't talk to me for a while and while I was asking why she is not talking she kicked me and called me a lazy idiot. I didn't react. When she didn't find any reaction however she smacked me in the back of the head really hard with S-pillow. We use really hard pillow and I felt really hurt. I told this to her. That hurt me. I said. She said it's pillow you liar. So I got angry and smacked her back with the same pillow and kicked her. She got angry AF and proceeds to scratch my face. My skin was in her nails which she threw st me, seeing that I got angry and slapped her in the face in anger. I immediately apologized cause I knew that was pretty hard. She screamed loud and pretty sure neighbors hear it and might call the cops. So that's my story. Right now I'm in the front room while she is in the bedroom. It's quite no. I don't know what will happen next. I am lost. I feel disgusted. I feel like I should end everything. I don't know. Story 11. AITA for telling my best friend I can't be her maid of honor because she's cheating on her fiancé. Title really says it all. My best friend of 12 years lives in another state and has been in a relationship with her girlfriend for 5 years and recently got engaged. They're planning to get married next year and she asked me to be her maid of honor which I previously said yes to. Over the last couple months, she's been confiding in me that she has been cheating on her fiancé, and I don't mean one accidental thing, I mean having a full-blown, intentional, ongoing affair. I've been having many conversations on the phone with her about the situation, and she has seemed to be remorseful and know that what she's doing is wrong, and has expressed many other issues with the relationship and know that she should break up with her. So I've been trying to help her get to the point of breaking up, which I know is hard to do when you've been with someone for so long, so I'm trying to have some empathy and grace for why they haven't broken up yet. However, this has been going on for so long that now we are all going to be back in our hometown for Christmas and supposed to all hang out with our old high school friend group and our partners. I haven't seen my friend's fiancé since knowing all this and I'm deeply uncomfortable with keeping this secret. I thought they would have broken up by now and I didn't know I would be put in this situation. So I called my friend and told her that I love her and I'm here for her and know she has to deal with things in her own time, but I'm not comfortable being around her and her fiancé knowing what I know. She got pissed TF off at me and basically attacked me for 45 minutes and called me a terrible friend and said that she told me those things in confidence and wouldn't have told me if she knew I felt this way. I told her that I was keeping it in confidence and that was putting me in a shitty situation, and if she wanted it to continue to be in confidence I probably shouldn't be around them together, so she could deal with it on her own time. She made it pretty clear that she never actually intended to break up with her fiancé and still plans to marry her and never tell her about the affair. I'm quite shocked because I thought this whole time that there was not going to be a wedding and that she knew that what she was doing would end the relationship. Now it's clear that she has wanted me to just keep her secret and be the maid of honor in her wedding and is convinced there's nothing wrong with what she's doing as long as her fiancé never finds out and she breaks it off with the person she's been seeing and they move on and are happy. This is so wrong to me and I can't be a part of it. She thinks I'm being a bad friend and this may be the end of a 12-year friendship. Story 12, AITA for spanking my daughter's friend for being disrespectful. My youngest daughter Reagan, 19, invited her best friend Sharif, female, 20, over for a sleepover since college was on Christmas break. For some context, I have 3 children and Reagan is my youngest. My 2 older sons, twins, live in a different state to attend college. So I live with my wife, 48, and Reagan. Basically, long story short, everything was going fine when Sharif and Reagan were in the basement playing games and on the phone or whatever, and I called Reagan up to help me bring the food delivery inside the house. I then called Sharif up to come eat but she didn't respond. I called again and no response, so I went into the basement and I caught Sharif in the bathroom touching my wife's skin and hair products. I immediately yelled at her saying what was she doing. She said she wanted to try the products since they were too expensive for her and I asked her she could have asked permission beforehand and Sharif said she only took a little bit and that it was fine. She did take a small amount but it still belonged to my wife. I kept arguing with her and eventually lost my cool, so I grabbed Sharif by the arm and hastily went to a chair and sat in it and pulled Sharif down over my lap and began spanking her hard with my hand for being extremely disrespectful in my own house. Sharif is very skinny and light, so it was easy to hold her down and spank her. She started screaming for Reagan, who came running down. She started calling me a pervert and a weirdo, saying what was I doing to her friend. I explained what happened and she said she didn't care and that Sharif wasn't my child. I told her I was simply teaching her respect but she didn't want to hear it, so they called an Uber and left and went to Sharif's house. I feel horrible but she literally used my wife's things without permission and tried to downplay it. AITA. Update. My phone has been blowing up with messages and calls from Sharif's father. He's threatening me and saying he will call the police. I am very scared and I may block his phone number. If you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to give a like, share it with someone, and subscribe for more stories that inspire, provoke, and connect us. Thank you.